Hi, welcome to the bathtub. It is I, the old masturbator, and my nifty shirt. I won't say who it's from. I wasn't trying to get anything out of you guys. But I'm going to do a few of these. I'm wearing a classy shirt. Let's face it. It's for three whole episodes. I'm going to do 3 of these really quickly. We're going to talk. We went back to. I went back to. I'm not the royal we. I went back. I always go back to Nabokov, or he's properly pronounced Nabakookie. Nabokov. This is a book I've read probably as many times, next to Lolita, which I must have read 20 times because I taught it a lot too. I've read this quite a few times. It's called The Real Life of Sebastian Knight. It's his first novel written in English. So as most of you know, about halfway through his career, he moves to America and he starts publishing his books in English rather than in Russian. And then he starts translating. Him and his son translate most of his Russian novels into English. They're beautifully written. His mastery of English, as everyone's already remarked, is incredible. It's published in 1941, and it's not always mentioned. It's not always mentioned in the top rank of Nabokov's work, and it may not be the top rank, but it's one of my favorites. It's one I keep going back to, and I might have a little better idea after having read it this time why I go back to it. There's 2 reasons I go back to it. One is I completely forget it. I've read it 4 or 5 times, and every time I look on the shelf, I say, "What was that book about?" I can't remember it at all, but I remember enjoying it. And this time through, I read it about a week, 10 days ago, because I've fallen behind in these stupid things, and I've already forgotten a lot of it. But it's more of it stayed with me this time than in the previous readings. It's a very good one if you love Nabokov. The premise is it's about the brother of a fairly famous writer. Who do I want to compare him to? Again, he's some writer in the 20s and 30s, and who is that guy? You know what it reminds me of? He reminds me of that guy, Stefan Zweig. You know, Stefan Zweig is a pretty interesting writer. For some reason, it reminds me of him, and the titles of this guy's work reminds me of him. But the central character, I forget his name, is somebody Knight, and he's writing about his brother Sebastian Knight. You see Knight, everyone knows the fascination with chess for Nabokov, and the 2 forward and 1 to the side, so the kind of goes in 2 directions at once. And there's something kind of confusing or multi-directed about this character and Sebastian Knight and his work and the novels he writes. And this odd little move, this little shift of a move is referred to very often throughout the book. Anyway, so the narrator is his half-brother of this novelist who's died pretty young. They're both Russian. They both have the same father, as I recall, but different mothers. And they haven't really known each other most of their life. And the narrator of the book clearly feels his brother never really was interested in him. He was younger, and his brother Sebastian, who he kind of admired because he was older than him, and was this writer and intelligent guy. They never really were close, and they lived separately and lived separate households and so forth. And when his brother dies, he decides he wants to write a biography of his brother and get to know him as well as write about him. He's also a big fan of Sebastian Knight's novels and stories, which are all described. And I can't really remember how they're described because they're very odd and peculiar little novels. They remind you a little bit of the most peculiar Nabokov novels. And one I think about which is the one called Invisible Things? Transparent Things. That really odd little book with a ghost floating through it. There's something odd about them, and there's something that move in 2 directions. Anyway, I won't say too much. I'm going to try to read a couple of quick passages. What happens throughout the book, and this fairly short book, you can read it in a couple of nights, is that it's basically a joke on the impossibility of telling what happens. That's one of those type of novels. So everything that happens in the book is that the narrator gets everything wrong to some extent. He's continually saying how incapable he is of writing well, like his brother. And then every once in a while he says, something is goading me on to write well. There's a lot of this kind of narrative gamesmanship of Nabokov that you know that there's... We're led to realize more often than not that Nabokov is giving this man the gift of writing, that his own gift of writing. But at the same time, the narrator is realizing that it may be coming from his brother Sebastian. So there is a sense that he's almost being haunted by this writer, and he's rising to the challenge and writing this kind of beautiful book. Everywhere he goes to get information on his brother, he's lied to. Everybody's lying, and he gets everything wrong. I'm going to give spoiler alert, so you don't. This won't hurt. This won't impair your enjoyment of the book, but I'm going to spoil a couple things. For example, at the very beginning, he goes to meet, somebody who was a secretary to Knight, or some friend of his, and he starts talking to him, and I think it's Goodman. His name is Goodman, and he's supposed to give information about Sebastian, and in the course of it, he says, "Don't write a biography of him. No one wants to read a biography of Sebastian Knight. You don't want to don't write a biography." And the narrator goes home, and like 2 months later, this guy's publishing a biography of Sebastian Knight. So he's trying to get him out of there and not write a book so he won't compete with his. There's a long, kind of funny scene halfway through the book where he goes to interview a woman who knows a woman who used to be Sebastian's last lover. And he spends a long time with her, and he becomes attracted to her. It's a doppelganger novel, so you do have the brother kind of doubling the desires and the abilities of his brother. And he starts to admire her, and eventually he realizes that she was the girlfriend, because she's been lying to him all the time. The concluding passage, I'm going to spoil it for you. This is worth knowing just to talk about it a bit. He goes to see his brother, so he flashes back. The whole end of the novel is a flashback, which normally I think it never works. He goes back to the day he went to see his brother, who had a heart attack and was in a hospital. And he rushes to England to see his brother. And he gets there just in time, he thinks, to go into this room. And the nurses send him in, and he goes in and sits next to his brother, and he has this long kind of epiphany and connection with his brother, and he feels good that he finally met him, sat with him, and was with him when he died. And then the man died, and then he gets up, and as he's walking out, someone says, "Oh, that's not your brother. Your brother died 2 hours ago in another room." Everywhere this guy goes, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And yet, at the end of the book, you feel like he's kind of made a contact with his brother by being in these wrong places. I think that's the best I can do about describing it. I want to read two passages. One very brief. This is from, where is this? Page 38, just to give you a little sense of the doubling. He's going through his brother's papers. And one of the things he does at the very beginning is his brother wants him to destroy all his papers. Like Kafka, some writers want all their papers destroyed. So the brother dutifully destroys these papers and then regrets it through the rest of the book. But as he's going through his brother's drawers, he says he finds an old notebook filled with dead telephone numbers and photographs. "I thought I should find lots of girls. You know the kind. Smiling in the sun, summer snapshots, continental tricks of shade, smiling in white on pavement, sand, or snow. But I was mistaken. The 24 or so photographs I shook out of a large envelope with a laconic Mr. H written on top in Sebastian's hand, all featured one and the same person at different stages of his life. First, a moon-faced urchin in a vulgarly cut sailor suit, next an old ugly boy in a cricket cap, then a pug-nosed youth, and so on till one arrived at a series of full-grown Mr. H, a rather repellent, bulldog type of man, getting steadily fatter in a world of photographic backgrounds and real front gardens. I learnt who the man was supposed to be when I came across a newspaper clipping attached to one of the photographs. Author writing fictitious biography requires photos of gentlemen, efficient appearance, plain, steady, teetotaler, bachelors preferred. Will pay for photos, childhood, youth, manhood, to appear in said work." So this is all this photography, all these pictures, which we expect to represent real things, are being used to create a fiction. And at the same time, the narrator, of course, is putting together all this information to create a fictional biography, to write a biography, which is being based almost entirely on fictional issues, fictional narrative stories that he's told by people people have lied to him about. Let me read two more quick passages. This is a little picture of London. I always like descriptions of London, and he finds this excerpt, these notes. in his brother's papers. And this is his brother writing. My memory of the London of my youth is the memory of endless, vague wanderings, of a sun-dazzled window suddenly piercing the blue morning mist, or of beautiful black wires with suspended raindrops running along them. I seemed to pass with intangible steps across ghostly lawns and through dancing halls full of the wine of Hawaiian music, and down dear, drab little streets with pretty names, until I came to a certain warm hollow, where something very like the selfest of my own self sits huddled up in the darkness. Again, there's so much to unpack in that little paragraph, but I like just the descriptions of this kind of the ambient love of walking through London, but then the secret self considering itself in the center of this place, which is what the book's about. It sounds like a complicated philosophical novel. It's not. It's very enjoyable. It's a very good read. I want to read the last epiphany in it. And this is the last paragraph. I'll read part of it. It is the realization that you get from this and other Nabokov novels, which is that the beauty of the life you find is not in yourself, but is in the fact that he actually meets and makes all these mistakes and meets all the wrong people and sits beside the wrong person dying, that kind of communal spirit, Transparent Things gives that same sense in a much more complicated and ironic fashion maybe, but it's a very pleasant experience at the end of this book. Really quickly. So I did not see Sebastian after all in the hospital, or at least I did not see him alive. But those few minutes I spent listening to what I thought was his breathing changed my life as completely as it would have been changed had Sebastian spoken to me before dying. Whatever his secret was, I have learnt one secret too, and namely that the soul is but a manner of being, not a constant state, that any soul may be yours if you find and follow its undulations. This is a beautiful passage. And a little previously to this, the narrator talks about how much he likes one of Knight's books because it gives you a sense of being in the world after death. I don't know if I've explained that quite right, but a posthumous experience. Okay, anyway, I really like this book, and I'll probably reread it if I live long enough. It's not one you've probably heard of as often as the other books, but it's darn tootin'. Okay, darn good. Oh, so Dodo's been very good. Very good. Very good bird, huh, Dodo? That's for the people who've been missing him. And even the crazy dog hasn't attacked me. And I'm resplendent. Let's face it. I'm resplendent in this thing. Okay, stay safe.